Awesome. Let's get going.
Cool. I kind of want to kick it off just because I don't think anyone knows who I am, and they're probably hearing like a woman's voice for maybe the first time on here. So yeah, hi everybody. My name is Christine, and I joined Secret Garden about a month ago as our head of marketing, which is super exciting. I'm also helping out on the Capsule House side. My background is in B2B tech marketing, but I'm just really stoked to be able to start working in the music world and yeah, like learn a lot more about Web3. This is our first secret sessions, Twitter spaces. So this is going to be like our team's way of connecting with our community, regularly, maybe share some alpha, get to know everyone better. And it'll be bi-weekly to start. And then, we'll have different speakers and topics kind of ongoing to keep things interesting. So yeah, that's me. And, I think y'all know Eric and Stoke over here.
Yeah, I think Christine, you undersell yourself often. So let me just like gas you up a little bit. Uh, Christine's like a superstar in Web two. She's worked in really boring SaaS companies, managing their very boring social media accounts for a really long time. But we've known each other for a minute now, and she's obviously a huge music fan. So even running up to like our first drop, I think. Um, I just noticed that even when I didn't ask her about Secret Garden, she would like bring up stuff about Secret Garden, and so there's just like a natural passion there for this project. But anyway, she's like totally changed the dynamic of our team. We had a bunch of sneaky boys in the room, and now we have a very organized and very smart lady to whip us into shape. Has just been really nice. So, but yeah, this is sort of our first of hopefully a more consistent set of sessions that we'll have. We want to obviously talk about our own project, but I think especially now that we have some mental space in the bear market to think about being intentional about community building, like we want to feature a lot of other projects as well, artists of course, but just wanted to, from my observation in the last like few months, like there's just been so many different angles in music NFTs right now, that just don't really haven't really been talked about, and there's just so many ways that people are trying to tackle all sorts of interesting problems, and yeah, so we want to have the space to feature these teams and these artists. But obviously today, as we kick it off, I think this is primarily focused on us, and so yeah, we can start with us. um, so I think the first thing that we want to talk, we already started talking about it, but like I think we haven't really shared like our team. Like we haven't shared who's on our team and hiring, what we're sort of angling towards. So obviously we introduced Christine. You got me and Eric here, and also, we're a very product heavy team. Obviously, we're not just like one JPEG that you can hopefully make last forever. So there's a lot of tech involved. One of the really exciting hires that we have is we have a designer named Eddie that yeah, just blows our mind on a daily basis with his design mock-ups. But yeah, he's a superstar designer. He's worked in every single mobile app that you probably ever thought of. He was on the iPhone team. He was on Android. He worked on Samsung. He's worked at Pinterest. And he's also super passionate about music. And so we randomly reached out to this guy, and he was just very excited about the project. So he's on board. We have an engineering team as well that's this guy named Edgar, who has basically built our experience to date, with obviously like working with Eric on that. And then we also, we have Grindin Nimothy in the listening room right now. He's obviously been the community guru on Capsule House side. He's also, our community guy here, but honestly, like he's a lot more than a community guy. The dude has a lot of brilliant ideas and has helped give us a good sentiment of what the market looks like. And then Channing, I think you guys all know Channing, or he's sort of been on the spaces before, but a little bit on Channing. He's actually Eric's music manager, but again, he's a lot more than a music manager. The dude has like just infinite wealth about the business side of the music industry. A lot of our project is about artists, managing artists and talking to artists and having them on board and making sure that they feel like they're getting taken care of. Like, how do we talk to their managers? All those things. Like, we're a little tech nerds here, and having Channing in the room has been a godsend, honestly, on all those fronts. So yeah, that is basically the core makeup of our team. But yeah, I don't know, Eric, like you're sort of the head of our product team. Like I've been personally very happy with sort of the last couple of weeks as well as we've been ideating. I don't know if you have anything to say about like, yeah, like what are your thoughts sort of comparing what product looks like, let's say on Secret Garden versus, you know, what you're doing in Lives of Asuna and in Capsule House?
I mean, fundamentally, it's just, I think it's almost like too easy to just bundle up productization just because everything's in Web3 and there's only a few certain like formats of Web3 products that people are really used to or have seen success, right? Which is either the one of one art piece or the profile picture collection. And we are sort of in between. I guess art blocks, I would maybe make a third category in the generative art category with things like art blocks. Um, I think there's something to be said about the uniqueness of our experience in being so experiential and so user driven. Um, like, actually, it's funny that we were just playing with this AI art generator this weekend, right?
Yeah.
And we are not artists. I mean, I want to be able to create that sort of feeling. And we were just there for so long, just seeing all the crazy combinations that we could with. And to be able to bring that to life for someone, uh, I think is just really special. I mean, we found ourselves just enamored by it ourselves. And we're like,
Yeah.
it's not only the output that's interesting, but it's the excitement of not knowing what you're going to get and the excitement of creating something new that you as an individual wouldn't have the skills to do itself, and making art really accessible. Music is particularly special for that because it's not just something that you can just hang up and stare at while you go make your coffee in the kitchen, but you get to actually be live engaged as a part of the process, right? It's a dynamic reactive system. And personally, I think that's just extremely exciting. I think the challenges here are obviously figuring out, most of every single piece of art that we've ever consumed in our life is a very one-sided relationship, right?
Yeah.
It's you as the individual uh, feeling something and looking at something or listening to something and enjoying the process of that. But I think we're here to challenge that a little bit and uh, because there's something very ethereal about the process that I have as a producer, the actual sort of process of creation. And I know I don't. It's like I don't want this to get like too woo woo and like abstract. But seriously, like art is about emotion, right? And there are a lot of emotions you can get by consuming something, but there is something special and very unique about the process of creation, and the process of interacting in this world of audio, um, that you can't really get just by listening to music. Like, it's gonna sound so elitist, but it's like, I'm not trying to say, oh, you just wouldn't get it. But seriously, like for many creators, I'm sure not just limited to producers, you know, that sort of creative process and that internalized joy of loving something that you've made, or finding the first sparks of an idea. This is stuff that inherently just can never come from the experience of just consuming. And I think that's what we're trying to tackle. I like to
Yeah.
think about our sort of narratives as more towards the nature of art and that experience of creation, rather than what specifically is innovative in Web3, which of course we care about, right? We've built a lot of tooling that have made our systems embeddable in OpenSea and all of that technical stuff. That's always going to matter to us. But for the first time, I'm very much interested in building in this space because of the culture, and that's what I think personally, I'm continued. I continue to be excited about.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I really like the parallel that you drew actually between. So just for context, I know everyone's heard of Dolly 2 at this point, but you enter some words and something amazing spits out. There's this competitor called Midjourney, and it just completely consumed me and Eric's time in the last couple of days. When we were supposed to be working, we started just entering in random words into Midjourney and spitting out results. But actually, you haven't mentioned the parallel, I guess, in making music. I think we'll talk about our customer survey that we put out recently, but I think one of the strongest pieces of feedback that I've heard and seen in Twitter posts has been, yeah, like I didn't think I could make anything musical, and I have this experience where, yeah, I could press these things, and it's almost like it's like a beginner's instrument, but instead of like like a elementary school like recorder or whatever, like you can actually make something beautiful because you have an artist that's handholding you, and that experience. I do think like like me personally, I think like Web3 is actually a very impactful medium for this, in the same way that Web3 is a very impactful medium for generative art. But there's something about, being able to create not just audio, but potentially visuals as well with your sounds, and having some sort of a feeling of ownership and belonging to a community that I think this actually does unlock technologically. So we've ran some experiments, obviously, with our first 3 drops, and I think we're honing in on something that we really feel like, we'd be proud of making, if you will.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the survey, Vic, because that was something, as Eric was just talking about creative accessibility. I feel like because we did an internal brand survey within our team, and then we had some initial ideas that then the user survey totally validated about that experience that kind of differentiates our product and offering of it being more of an experience, and like just that feeling of creating something for the first time and being like almost like childlike joy that comes out of that. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like there's just so many goodness, and I can't believe like our community was so helpful in that survey process and willing to just give like such blunt feedback that we're already starting to implement. So
Yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah, for sure. I mean, Christine, before we move on to the survey, like, I'm curious, you weren't someone that was very Web3 savvy at all or crypto savvy at all, right? I think you kind of walked into this truly with like virgin eyes with everything in crypto. What has your experience been like? Jumping from a big organization to doing this. I don't know, what are sort of the highlights that you've seen?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, I mean, this is just like startup life generally, is there's just so much work to be done and it's all incredibly exciting. Also, interestingly, like I joined at a kind of a weird time in the market, right? Like, I think too, with that shift in the market, a lot of people are acknowledging the fact that, things that were previously working maybe won't work now. So, like, what else can we be testing out and trying to move the needle? And like, that's exciting from a marketer's perspective. And just as we're, again, building out like our experience, what our product currently is, what it could look like. Because I think too, another thing is like from an outsider's perspective, everyone knows like there's a lot of talk about, okay, why would I buy this? Like, what does this actually mean in the long term? And I'm really excited about what we're building, because it is, I mean, I don't know. I don't own any PFP, so I can't speak to like what that feels like when you purchase one, and if it feels like it's something that resonates very dearly to you just in an art sense. But I feel like with what we're doing with Your Garden, it's like something so physical and tangible. You can play with the product, and like there's something cool about your input and getting something back out of it, kind of thing. So I don't know. That's what really drew me to this project, I think, in particular, was it just felt like something different, like more than a JPEG kind of situation.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, it's also interesting, like there's like 2 layers. I feel like there's like one, just joining a startup generally is chaotic, and then joining a startup in the NFT world is like a different layer of chaos.
Yeah,
That
it's intimidating. Like I'll use that word for me, at least. It was very intimidating, but also super exciting. So
for sure. Um, I guess, Eric, for you, like on this topic of like bear market, we riffed on this like a few times, right? Like, how has this changed your perception on like what to focus on, right? Because I think in the bull market, it's hard to tell what actually moved the needle on certain things. How has that shifted your perspective from a product perspective and sort of on a project focused perspective?
Oh, whoops, sorry, I was talking with the mic muted. I think it's sort of a blessing in disguise in the sense that, not to. I feel sympathetic to everyone's pain and hope everyone's doing well. Obviously, we're all down quite a. But from a creator's perspective or a startup's perspective, it is kind of a blessing in disguise because it lets you get rid of a lot of noise, things that revolve around maybe just the momentum of the bull market, and things that just get pumped. Like I would say, like you can't really tell what gets pumped arbitrarily in the bull market because everything's going up, and it might mislead you into making product decisions that are poor, because you start to over train yourself on things that don't really matter.
Yeah,
The thing is now, right? Your question: what's actually doing well in the market? What actually has deep uh, artistic value in spite of everything that's going on? And one such blatant example is probably some of the stuff on art blocks. As with anything, a lot of this space is still just kind of ridden with the expectations of profit making, and certainly it's something that we were cognizant of. I think I've sort of maybe reset my stance on it, whereas before I think there's a very strong urge as an artist to be like this gung-ho, like, you know, fuck all the flippers, like you should not be in here to make money. Um, from the perspective of business, though, right, that metric really does matter. And sorry, I am getting calls. And it's something that we have to be cognizant of as we build into the future, you know. And that doesn't mean building things with like Ponzi-like economics where you burn this to get this and you get, you know, but it means actual focus on very good productization and building something that inherently someone else wants, right? That to me isn't that nefarious of an idea. I'm not here trying to just take money and, you know, boost it so that some sucker's left with this thing at an overpriced value that they bought. Um, the idea is that at the end of the day, the last buyer should always be happy. At some point, there should be someone who purchases it for the last time and never sells it and feels completely happy with that. That to me feels like a pretty pure ideology towards the space that doesn't necessarily go against the idea of profit making for others. Um, you know,
Yeah.
I sort of align with that a lot more stronger as we've been in the bear market, because obviously, like, the realistic part is we need to be able to support ourselves, support the devs, and to support other artists, and to continue to make this work. That's my sort of priority, and if that requires us to have healthier secondaries and healthier initial sale volume, then that's something to optimize for. I just think you need to think about it. Within with sort of the right spirit, and not so much as like, how do we make this one time, you know, drop as successful as possible and just leave.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a common thread, I think, amongst our team at least, of just being really intentional, right? And I think none of like, maybe we can start talking about the survey results because I think it's kind of relevant. But like, well, first of all, I think a lot of people on this space has contributed to the survey, and we just wanted to like thank everyone. We had a surprising amount of responses, very thoughtful responses. People went long form in describing what exactly they liked, what exactly they didn't like. I think in total we had something like 83 or 80 plus responses, and a bunch of people were willing to give their emails too to talk to us, and just for us to interview. So we'll be reaching out soon. But um, I think a few sort of core nuggets came out of those surveys from my perspective, and I love Christine, for you've been in the weeds of it too, so you can talk about it a little bit too. But I think for me, there's a few highlights. One, um, I think this concept of collectability has been something that's been racking our brains internally, um, because we've been through three drops now. Obviously, the first, like all three of them, for example, have been visually unique. They all came with different songs, but we were honing in on what makes an NFT collectible today, like literally today in 2022, in terms of like what infrastructure is out there to look at stuff, right? And unfortunately or unfortunately, we are sort of beholden to, for example, the fact that OpenSea has a one by one square, and if you're scrolling through, you have literally like a second to determine whether you like something or not. And I think this is sort of a core issue, not issue, but like a challenge of music NFTs is like, what does uniqueness in music look like? And if it takes me 3 minutes to listen to the song and then compare with another 3 minute song and then compare with the third 3 minute song, so I can find one stem that was like super rare, like it's just game over, right? No one's gonna want to collect that, and it's like a weird thing. So one of the biggest pieces I think feedback was like, okay, visuals are really important, and I think it's interesting because other projects like Warp Sound and other projects have also explored this angle of like visual rarity. But what we were thinking, is really like, how do we introduce that in a way that doesn't just feel like a unique visual that you slap a song on? Like, we wanted to be more intentional with the fact that our experience is really unique. The fact that you can make a song and potentially have a different visual, like how do we integrate those two experiences together in a way that is inherently collectible, in the sense that, yeah, within a couple seconds you can see that this is really unique, but at the same time weave in a musical experience. So we don't want to give away too much, but that's something that we will be testing on our neck in a very big way. So that was like one side. Like, yeah, we want to introduce, try to figure out a way to be more intentional about collectability without feeling too gimmicky. The other thing that really stood out to me, we had a question in there, is like, how much do people care about making money? And like, that was a polarizing question. There are people who don't give a shit about making money, and they were like, we just care about the music. And then obviously a lot of people are like, well, making money is like a really important core part of NFTs. And I'm sure a lot of people here follow Koopa Troopa, for example. Like that's one of his narrative is like, look, you can't avoid that, right? Making money is like a core part of what this culture is right now, for better or for worse. So that was, not something that was necessarily shocking to us, but it was interesting to see that our community has people who really don't give a shit. They'll buy everyone. We had people on our last spaces, talking about how it was a joy for them to share it with their kids, and their kids had their first musical experience playing with Secret Garden Bouquet, right? For those people, I don't think they really do care about this thing pumping or not. At the same time, right, like we are an NFT project, we're collectibles, and collectibles, like what metric do you measure as a collectible company? Well, you care about how much people are selling this stuff, right? And like you care about the rarity and the fact that this number can go up over a certain time period. So it's interesting looking through the surveys because it's not like one thing stands out that we're like, oh, we just got to like do this and we'll be successful. But it is starting to become clear of what our community members do. And so, yeah, like I think a lot of it was validating. I feel confident saying that we have some of the best music that's out there in Web3 right now, for sure. And so, how do we lean on the fact that that's very attractive to people, but at the same time, start thinking about ways to push this space forward in a way that, makes people really care to be a part of the community and potentially purchase NFTs on the secondary market. So, yeah, that's kind of like two of the things that I sort of read from that.
Yeah, and I would say from like a comms marketing perspective, because that's the hat I'm always wearing. I would say some of the things that stood out to me from the survey too were like just a lot of general questions about our project, right? Hence the Twitter Spaces series we're trying to do. Just a lot of education, like what can I do with my bouquet? Some people didn't even know that our work with artists directly supports them. Like the funds go to them. I think some people didn't know that. How do we go about partnering with artists? Like who are we picking to partner with? I think there's just a lot of like general questions, curiosity about the folks we're partnering with. So that stood out to me as something that I know we definitely want to be better about. Our ongoing drop is just like sharing more with you all, making our community feel like you all, your input is really valued. And we want to make sure it's like a two-way kind of situation. So yeah, I thought that was something that stood out to me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like another thing that really stood out to me too was like people wanted to have more insight on like some of the processes that are going behind. Um, like people want to know how artists were coming up with these stems or how they arranged them. People wanted to know, for example, like how we even think about selecting artists or presenting it. Um, there's a lot of sort of how-to content that I think
Yeah.
we can capitalize on, and 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 I think another thing that the surveys also showed me was like um, there's like a level of engagement with the fans. Like a lot of people mentioned that they would go, for example, to check out these profiles and figure out what they're all about. Um, and sort of on the topic of like artist utility too. This has been something that's been really challenging for us, but it's like I think for everyone in the space, but it's like how do artists make people feel like they're getting interesting utility without sort of having to be their most extroverted selves and to do one-on-one meetings or like meet and greets. Like I feel like it's obviously extremely draining for artists to have to like commit to those things, and it feels very forced. So are there, for example, music events that we can potentially add as utility, right, to like concert tickets um, or even just like other sort of more exclusive music related things that aren't necessarily requiring the artist to have to, yeah, just spend a bunch of their time. Like I just don't think. I think everyone has an expectation that every artist is like the most extroverted person that's going to say something beautiful on a spaces and just like, yeah, they're just going to be your best homie and they're just going to like be in Discord all day and chatting with you. Like I don't really want that to be a requirement for what makes us valuable, and it seems like it just seems like too easy mode, and we can be more intentional with that stuff. But definitely a lot of things we learned from those surveys, though, for sure.
Also, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, kind of related to that, we got a lot of like ideas for our product, right, in those surveys, and some of them are super helpful and we want to kind of run with some, but then others were like a little bit more on the web 2 side. I would say like there was a thought around like an app, just for playability features, right?
Yeah.
And so I feel like we're making some product updates, which we're going to share very soon. So I feel like that was kind of a nice sort of segue into like just general product updates, because I feel like our dev team, Eric, and like everyone is working super hard, and we haven't been the most communicative about that either. There's like
For
so
sure.
going on the back end that I feel like are exciting to me, and hopefully I think everyone else will be equally excited.
Yeah, we can talk about some of that right now. I think, yeah. So first of all, I think we're gonna have periodic product updates. Internally, we have a cadence for when we want to get certain things released and made to the public. There's been a lot of like cleanup work in the last few weeks, but there's starting to become some new things. So I think one thing that you guys should be expecting, and then hopefully the next couple of days, and if not early next week, is we are revamping our website quite significantly. Just the core structure of the website. I think one sort of design, I don't know if people are familiar with the word design language, but like one of the things that sort of drives, I guess, inspiration for our design is the concept that, like, I mean, Eric, you've talked about this, the concept that these kind of feel like a museum piece, like almost like an anthology of sounds. Like, dude, Eric, I've listened to your music like infinitely, but like even listening and going through your Sunday journal, like I was like, okay, shit, like I could see more about who you are as an artist. And it almost felt like your encyclopedia of sounds that you wanted to like memorialize in this collectible. And it felt like a digital vinyl, right? It felt like a Web3 vinyl. And I think we've been sort of honing in on that as the inspirations that we want to have on our website. Like, it should feel like a gallery that you can flip through. It should feel like something where you can learn more about the artist. It should be obviously really easy to buy things. So you'll start seeing web updates on the website in that sort of vein. We've also completely revamping the actual bouquet. So I know everyone here is familiar with our sort of diamond structure, but we've been trying to make it more agile. And I think one of the challenges has been, with a diamond structure, if you wanted to add stems to it, for example, it's actually quite hard to add it visually in a way that like makes sense. So Eric, if you want to talk a little bit about sort of the updates there, our explorations with like hexagons and what was it, the golden ratio and shit like that. Yeah, maybe you can
Oh
talk a little
man,
bit about updates there.
yeah. I wish Eddie was here. We have another designer on board who's an absolute legend. He might have a better instinct on that, but we are working on a revamp of all of our sort of UI here. And I think honestly making it a lot more of a cohesive experience than sort of the pad with the image on the back. We've been thinking a lot about, you know, it still is really more of an audio experience on our end than a visual one. And thinking about how to marry the two, both in the UX and the UI, as well as the actual, uh, let's just say, reactivity of the visuals, has been on top of mind. And so I think we're gonna have a very, very, like, I don't know, I don't want to give away too much, but for our next drop, both with the artists that we're working with, and with the developments and the actual sort of presentation of the product, um, I think it's going to be really, really solid as sort of a V2 of what we've gotten. Um, Aside from the actual sort of design intuition, I don't know if I'm the best person to speak about it. Unfortunately, my like appreciation of design goes as far as like that looks good and that doesn't.
Yeah, same.
So yeah, yeah, we got to bring Eddie onto one of these sometime. Who's our lead designer at this point, and his work is just stunning. Yeah.
Yeah. We have these weekly product syncs where it's basically turned into watch Eddie present his screen, and we just like ooh and ah in the background. Like, yeah. He's explored like totally crazy like looking beat pads, all these interesting like ways to create buttons and an experience. And we're trying to scale this, right? We want to do a ton of different drops. We want to have all sorts of different interactive audiovisual experiences, and to be able to have a cohesive sort of design structure that makes it work for 3 stems, it makes it work for 100 stems, it makes it work for adding stems, right? Like all these things is like actually quite really hard of a design prompt, but we're coming together with something. And I think we try to have a cadence for our first 3 drops, right? We did the first one, with the second one like a month later, and I think Robotaku was like a month after that. And after the 3rd drop, we've really just been heads down, revamping everything and rethinking a lot of what we've learned. And so that's kind of like, I don't know, maybe people are thinking like, okay, there's been kind of silence and delay, but yeah, this is our next drop is like a big one for our team on all fronts. I think it implements this new product direction. It introduces an artist that, quite frankly, is like probably the biggest artist we've had to date by a large margin. And there's a really interesting integration with the music that we're very excited to share. But it's a lot to build, right? It's a lot to think through. It's also a lot to think about. Sort of, you don't want to waste your time building something that doesn't work for the future, right? Quite frankly, like if we built something that was one off that we couldn't sort of expand to other drops that might be good for one drop, it feels like it could be kind of a waste, not a waste of time, but just not the most efficient use of time. And we have a small team, and we got to be very, we have to be very conscious of how we're spending our time. And so I think there's a couple weeks there where I don't want to say I was concerned, but I was just like, I didn't really see, like, I just couldn't see it. It felt like we were on the precipice of something that was cohesive. And, we're just brainstorming but I think that was a lesson for me personally that like, even those times of like uncertainty where you're genuinely trying to push it forward with ideas and discussion and trying to be open with what people are suggesting, super valuable going through that as a team. And I think we're landing on something that we're all very proud of already. So, I'm very excited to share all that stuff with you guys, but now that we have a marketing person, we can't fuck around and just like tease stuff here and there and whatever. So it'll be an intentional release that you guys will hopefully enjoy for sure.
Yeah, thank you for that shout out. I am also very excited. And I think, again, it just goes back to your point about intentionality, right? Like, I think all of us just want that we can be really proud to release and share with people. And that includes marketing. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think something we haven't talked about. We're also, this is another sort of Christine initiative. I think when this is also kind of funny because the brand survey, we asked a couple questions about, is our brand recognizable? Does Secret Garden seem to have a clear purpose? And to be honest, internally, we've had a lot of friction and just like, what is our purpose? What is our mission? What is our design language and branding? Surprisingly, a lot of you guys thought we had a good purpose and a cohesive brand design. So thank you, but we can do better. And so I think that's been one of our sprints internally was like, yeah, let's put together a better sort of brand packaging and be more new logo, new fonts, new iconography like buttons and all that stuff. We are going to be packaging that all together in a grand, I'm putting grand in quotes, but like a grand release in a few weeks. And we really want to sort of reintroduce ourselves as a company, as a project, and have that sort of lead into our next drop. And yeah, just like another thing, I guess this is a little bit an alpha, but like I think everyone's been treating the Genesis bouquet, for example, as a utility vehicle because we've been giving holders early access. And it's, I think it's really important for us to take care of the people who actually bought us in the beginning. But as a part of this brand packaging, like all I really want to say is that, yeah, I think people should be ready for making sure that their Genesis bouquet is in the right wallet. And we definitely want to be rewarding our original holders with something that that hopefully will be a better vehicle for our future utility and really be our core community as we try to expand the rest of our holder base as well. But yeah, there's a bunch of you guys are super loyal. You guys are super good community members. Just really engaged. Like I'm honestly quite shocked by how the small community has really, just been just awesome people to be working for and building for. And so we definitely want to reward those people. But yeah, we have a couple very big moments coming up, and hopefully that'll lead nicely into our next drop.
Yeah, well said without giving away too much.
I tried my best.
Yeah. I don't know is there anything else y'all want to talk about? I feel like I was, everything I wanted to hit on. And also, well, if anyone has questions too, right?
Yeah. Well, let's do a couple minutes of questions. We still have some time, but yeah, I think we covered a lot. But yeah, happy to invite people up.
Or even if you guys have suggestions for topics that you want us to cover in future secret sessions, very open to that too.
By the way, guys, I would not feel bad if we don't get questions, like even with large rooms. Oh, speak of the devil, Brendan has come up.
All right.
What's up, Brendan?
Hey. How's it going?
It's going, man.
Good.
Good. I actually met Eric a few months ago, like once, but I haven't seen him since. And that's before Secret Garden was a thing yet. So I'm sure you guys have all been busy just building. Um, Hearing some of your conversation earlier, especially with Secret Garden and kind of building out your own song as an experience. Um, and also, you guys bring up with like survey results, thinking about the purpose. I'm wondering, like, have you guys thought about using this experience as potentially like an educational platform? Like as someone who makes a bit of music myself, um, really the experience you get with Secret Garden, kind of building out your own song with different sounds, is the essence of what it's like being like someone who makes music. I know it's simplified, but I think it's very educational. Like it's an experience. You have a really
Mhm.
good time when you come up with something cool, and that's kind of the joy at least I get out of making music. Have you guys thought about maybe using that experience in an educational way?
That's a
That's
great
pretty
question.
interesting.
Yeah.
Not really, actually. I guess in a way you're right. I suppose like in a way we've kind of solved the educational experience inadvertently because we overshot. Because for an education experience, we certainly don't need folks like Robotaki or Smile making the pieces. Certainly, it makes it a little more engaging. I think makes it higher, more attractive. But yeah, I haven't thought about that at all. It would be interesting to have like workshops or sessions where it's like, well, out of all the basic pieces of this, how do you actually make it feel like a song versus just a
Yeah.
collection of sounds that work together? I think that would be cool.
And
Yeah.
the
No.
angle I was thinking was like, like some people who are have bought Secret Garden or minted, like they, even as people who don't necessarily know music, got to kind of enjoy that feeling of creating
Yep.
something. And I think for people who are on the edge, like thinking about going into music or just trying to understand this more, this is really at a high level what it's like making music. So just my perspective.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think it could be tackled in a few different ways. I think the easy way to tackle it is just to have more educational content, right? Like, I mean, I do think of this as a really simple but high quality instrument, right? Each one of these drops is really an instrument. I mean, it fits every definition of an instrument. And so, um, I think, yeah, you could definitely create content around that. I also think that, we have in the surveys, for example, there's been talk or comments about potentially having like periodic contests, for example, where people can make mixes, and I think that might be a good sort of avenue for educating. I think that's on the sort of the content and sort of community side. Actually, on the design side, we've actually talked about some of this, maybe not in so much a tutorial handheld way, but um, one of the challenges that we've given to our product team is how do we teach people how to use the bouquet pad without literally giving them a tutorial, right? Like, how do you design it in a way where it becomes even more intuitive so that people can know that, hey, this is the bass, this is the drum, this is the sound, this is filler. And I don't think we've had a conclusion on what that would look like, but proposal, for example, is that when you first get introduced to a new bouquet on reveal day, for example, we can walk you through almost like, hey, press this button, press that button, and like here's a combination that can work. Um, to almost like, to your point as a producer, like I'm sure you're thinking about crescendos, decrescendos in the song. You're thinking about the lead up to a drop. You're thinking about different moods, or I think Eric loves like in your music, Eric, you love to switch beats like in the middle of your tracks. Like I think that's like starting to become something that's like I don't know, yeah, like a signature of yours. Um, and being able to basically introduce people to that might be a way of educating without being explicitly a how-to. I don't know. Those are some thoughts that I think we've sort of weighed, but it is an interesting comment, man. Like I think this is something that could be really helpful to extend the lifespan, I guess, if you will, of a bouquet drop.
Yeah, I think people talk about ed tech a lot, and I think NFTs are in a pretty interesting spot, especially when you go through the experience of minting or buying something. There's that extra layer of interactivity, right? So,
Yeah,
just my thoughts chiming in. It was nice listening to what you guys are working on, what you guys have planned for. But yeah, that was my comment.
awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. David, you always have questions.
Yeah, I had a comment and a follow-up question. I really liked how Eric Sammy talked about being reactive versus proactive and not trying to play catch up when it comes to product design, especially in an NFT world where if something does well, there's going to be like a million copycat projects following it. I just want to know kind of like your thought process of how you guys approach kind of being innovative. Like, do you guys keep track of other projects, music projects? I know Eric said something about like creating products that are just in general fun and to hold, you know. Yeah, just want to kind of get into your design process of how Secret Garden will stay ahead of
Yeah,
the curve.
that's a great question. So, yeah, definitely curious on Dana Victor's thoughts on it. My take is this: I had something kind of revolutionary come up that blew my mind a little bit, and it's with my good friend Suhail Doshi, who I owe much credit to. And in startup culture, in the very meaty world of startup hustling, there's always this idea of first movers advantage, right? But he was like, my opinion is that first movers advantage is heavily overrated. The best thing, the more kind of wise thing to do is to take care of your second mover's advantage, which is that you let someone else do all the work for you and basically build your MVPs and test your hypotheses, and then you take that and make it better, and you take the things that didn't work. Um, and so I feel very much in a similar position here. And I don't mean strictly speaking, I'm looking at other music NFT projects and being like, oh, this is not working. But I'm talking about the space as a whole, right? Like you take these abstract concepts such as the fact that Art Block is still selling out some of these pieces. They're visually stunning, and you start to make your own conclusions about what's still important in a bear market for consumers and folks who kind of care about art for art's sake. And I think the trick is to make these principles abstract, right? The conclusion is not you should just build another art blocks because art blocks is working. It's rather
Right.
that there's an appreciation for high qualitative work even in a downturn. And maybe that if that's the conclusion, now you have a data point that you had to spend zero time working on yourself to collect that data. You can just look at your not even competitors, just other products that maybe have something that's a little bit parallel to what you want to build. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, that's really solid. I think my sort of spin on that is also like it's important to keep tabs, I guess, of what other people are doing in the space. That's always important to do. You don't want to be, building in a vacuum. But there's something to be said about really thinking about first principles. And I know that's like it's very trite, but it's very true. Like thinking hard about where are people consuming this medium, right? We just had a discussion yesterday, for example. I mean, people are on Discord. They know that we had a grind and put up a poll about like, are we designing for mobile or designing for desktop, right? Where are people signing on? Where are people using things? And like, just really thinking through, for example, like, it's a ridiculous question, but like, what makes art collectible? What makes people want to store value in a piece of art in an economic downturn? What does that mean for music collectibles, right? And I think it's a scary thing to be in such a new space. Like everything feels like a risk, right? There's nothing to look towards as inspiration. Like, oh, they did this right, and like we can just do that now. Like no one in the space is broken out yet in the music world, right? So for us, it's like, okay, how do we get to the core principles of what makes art collect, makes music fun, what makes playing an instrument inherently a magical thing, and how do we combine that into a way that's consumable in a really quick and easy way, right? Like, if it takes someone longer than 30 seconds to figure out how your product works, your product doesn't work. And so, yeah, like I think it's a balance, right? Like, of course, when something does something truly innovative and it changes the game, and the way that art blocks, for example, I mean, we say art blocks is a lot very inspirational. They found a way to use the blockchain and create generative art in a very it just feels awesome, minting something that no one has ever seen before. Like that's a cool experience, and it's a good use case for the blockchain. And we can't, as a music company, do the same thing, but there are ways to sort of extract from that experience and try to think about what we can do in our space that parallels that. Yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, that's great to hear, and it kind of reminds me of Apple with the way you guys approach things with a second mover advantage, and
Right.
just focusing on very principle values. That's great to hear. I guess my follow-up question would be for Christine. As the head of marketing, how are you going about kind of amplifying the innovation or the products that the product team are building? As we know, we have a pretty small community right now. How do we get to the point where everyone knows all the great stuff that the product team is making?
Yeah, we're definitely working on that. I feel like I'm not very technical about like how our product is being developed, and so I think part of it is just having a better pulse on like what's actually going on with product. I feel like they have so many things they're working on simultaneously, and just trying to get a handle on like, please help me understand that, make it easy for everyone to understand externally when we share it. I think again at the top of this call I mentioned we're going to be doing more sharing of that like externally in our Discord and Twitter, just literally giving updates, status updates of what's going on. And hopefully being able to expand upon it of like, okay, we're doing this, what does it mean for you? And yeah, so I think just that's step one, right, is being able to consolidate all the work that's being done and share it internally. I think in a future state too, I would love to like, Eric mentioned too, having like Eddie on this call or like Edgar or whoever on these calls on our team to be able to like talk through the thought process that goes into it and share more with you all what's going on in the back end. So yeah, I think just doing more of this really. Because I think that was some of the big feedback we got was people want to really know what's going on and how we're thinking about stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. One more thing. I forgot to mention this, but we did sign like a music publicist recently.
Yeah.
That's actually quite a big deal. Huge deal. They're a really well-known music publicist for a lot of EDM producers, but they're also shockingly super well-versed in NFT and crypto, which I don't know, it was just kind of like a godsend. And so part of our strategy from a marketing perspective is, of course, like our buyers right now are going to be crypto natives, right? Just because, as much as it has advanced, it's really hard to onboard non-crypto people. They can't buy this with a credit card in an easy way. But at the same time, we do want music fans to know who we are, right? We do want people beyond the NFT space or even the smaller music NFT community to like know that, hey, there's this project innovating in the space in a way that's thoughtful and not just a cash grab. And so yeah, we got a phone publicist. They're hopefully going to help us get placed in different publications, get some attention from the Web2 sort of normal world music publications, but also yeah, like I think I genuinely think what we're doing is unique and it's different and it's innovative, and those are core things that I feel very proud of what we've built so far. And I think the crypto world needs to know about that. They should know about that. They should know who we are. And the music world should eventually know who we are. And I think the crypto world is something that I think is more of a short-term thing that we can solve, and we will. The music thing is a long game, right? Like music fans just don't care about NFTs for the most part.
Yeah.
Maybe there is something innovative that they will find interesting over time.
I think that's where Channing's strong suit comes in, right? He
Yeah,
has a
for
real
sure.
perspective of like how the stuff we're doing actually impacts the industry at a macro level to an extent, right? Like I think he brings a lot of that. So I partner really closely with him and want to make sure we're telling those stories too, in addition to sharing like what our devs are doing for this community. So
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I'm very excited about the news about the publicist. I think I didn't even know what the publicist did before I was told, and
neither did I, dude.
Like, it's amazing that we have one because what they do is so valuable, and I feel like 99% of the projects out there don't have one.
For sure.
And like you said, her resume, her clients that she's had or has now, are just like all A-list stars and musicians, and yeah, I'm very excited to see what she can do. And her name is so powerful, Like
yeah,
Falcon.
yeah, yes, the Falcon. Cool. Well, that covered a lot, guys. That's really fun. I like doing this. We can do it again.
yeah, see you in 2 weeks.
Sounds
Cool.
great.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.